Focus looks a little soft to me, Scott.
My focus does?
Yeah.
It probably does, but that won't affect the actual outcome because
Then never mind.
You're not seeing. Hang on a second.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to make sure. No worries.
Okay. Well, then I'll ignore it. Okay. Yeah, it's supposedly on autofocus, but come on, turn off. Okay. There we go. Here I'm crisp. The actual feed monitor is good. Okay.
That's all that counts.
Mark, that part is not part of the show. I know sometimes with the Backstage episode, we have to give directions to our editor that the part where we're kind of rambling after we initially turn on the cameras, before we actually begin the show, which is not really a show at all, is not part of the show. And that's because it's hard to distinguish. And so
there's no end points on the ramble. It's kind of a spectrum. It's like you got to just make a decision at what point to come in. We usually should just, as a rule of thumb, just say 30 seconds after the cameras start rolling, just cut it in there.
He should just fade up, just slowly fade up in the middle of the conversation. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, that would give that kind of impression that you just kind of walked into the room and
sort of a Robert Altman effect, You're not so much actors reciting lines as just walking in on a jumbled mess of a conversation. Oh, wait, we've been doing that the whole time. Never mind. Not a big deal.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I just realized something. We just recorded a little bit of video during which the audio was streaming through my speakers instead of into my earphones. So I'm sure that was horrible for our editor to try to figure out. And so whatever we said before this point, please ignore, Mark. Now we're starting the video.
We are really putting the back in Backstage.
And I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to hear Bill and Steve. Can I get a sound check?
Check.
Can you hear me?
No, not very well.
Oh, no.
Hang on a second.
But behind the scenes,
this is
before
what
we
real
rolled the
professionals
cameras,
do.
I was the one with the audio problem.
I'm turning on my monitor now so I can get
Skype was looking for a microphone that wasn't there.
Yeah, just talk or something. Do something weird while I'm doing this.
Waka 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 waka. Waka 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 waka.
And let's see.
Output
volume is not changing. Here we go.
Waka 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 waka
how is it now?
Is anything happening?
Any luck?
This is awful.
Nothing?
Input
Zero?
volume is working. Output volume, not so much.
Okie dokie, Smokey.
It's just that kind of
Do I have to turn it up in Skype?
I don't know.
I don't know that there
Skype.
are volume controls in Skype.
Speakers are jacked all the way.
Jacked, man. They're jacked all the way.
This is horrible, but let me try the other earbud. I'm going to switch over to
Okay. There's the other earbud. Is that working?
The left earbud works,
test.
even though the right one didn't.
Sounds like it might be a battery
success.
problem of some kind.
It might be a what problem?
Battery problem.
Oops, I just lost you again.
All right.
So we've got
Is
more
it
of a
battery
problem. Hang on.
Oh, no.
Now I'm switching to a different pair of earbuds.
And now we can't hear you either. Oh, wait. I heard
Can
a
you
click.
hear us?
Okay.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
Finally, the trusty AirPods Pro, the only device, and the Raycons, which have been serving me well for a long period of time. Apparently, I've done something wrong. I blame myself, not the device. I don't know about you guys, but when something doesn't work properly for me, the last thing in the world I want to do is return it. Do you actually engage in returning things?
Oh, yeah.
Not generally.
Yeah, it's funny because I hate returning things so much that I'll literally reason to myself, well, maybe it was my fault. Maybe.
Here's a $16 clock from Amazon made in China. It's not working.
That's
I'm going
right.
to go to the trouble of getting in touch with China and shipping this thing back. And
Yeah. No, actually, Amazon
that's a
makes it really
strategy
easy. You
on
don't
your
even need
part.
to box stuff up anymore. You get a QR code and 30 days to send it back. You take the whatever it is to the UPS store. It's like 6 minutes from here. They scan the QR
Wow.
code. They take the product, and you're done. About 3
Isn't that
hours
amazing?
later, you get your money back.
Yeah, I know you make it sound easy. And these, I don't even remember. I think I bought them directly from Raycon, and they've been, like I said, they've been great. The other day we were at a restaurant. This was after church, and we're with family and friends at this restaurant. And I ordered like eggs and bacon or something. And I said, I'd like a pancake on a separate plate. But instead, the waitress brought me some sort of entire pancake entree with multiple pancakes on it and some other stuff I didn't even know what it was. And so my wife would have no qualms and in fact endeavored to say, send that back. That's not what he wanted. But I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll just eat it. Now, as it turned out, they weren't great pancakes either, and we're probably not going to order breakfast food at that place anymore.
Did you feel duty-bound to eat the extra pancakes that you didn't like? That's my question.
Yeah. It's kind of like I felt like it was my mistake. Like I failed to communicate effectively with the waitress. Now, later in the meal, I discovered that really it was kind of a strategy of hers to make me feel like I've intentionally failed or that I failed to communicate. But by that time, it was too late. I already had eaten the pancakes. And whatever that other slop was on the plate.
Ugh.
So anyway, we are now...
Switch.
We are up and running with this week's Backstage meeting, which started crisply on time as usual with zero technical difficulties. And this week I get to host 2 episodes of the program, as Glenn Beck likes to say. And I have 2 that seem as widely divergent from each other as I could possibly get. One, I think both of these... No, one comes from a story in the Wall Street Journal. The other one I think I found on Yahoo News or Google News or something. Which are the news aggregation sites that take advantage of the content provided by private companies and then circulate it widely without benefiting the private companies who actually do the primary news gathering. So anyway, one of them is this phenomenon of a show. Have you guys heard of this show called The Chosen?
No.
Okay, so here's the deal. I think my wife told me about this a long time ago, but it just it sounded like it was going to be no fun. And so I said, I don't know if I'm interested in watching that. And the reason why it sounded like it was going to be no fun, and for those of you who are just watching for the first time, I am a Christ follower. I'm a believer in Jesus, so what you would call a Christian. This show is about Jesus. And I thought, oh, it's another one of those kind of lame Christian things. And so I said, I don't really want to watch that. And so we didn't. Well, now I see an article in the Wall Street Journal, and I haven't done this yet, but I know at some point I'm going to have to kind of sheepishly say to my wife, hey, honey, you want to watch this new show called The Chosen that we've never heard of before? And the reason why I'm interested now is not because of the show itself, but because of how it got to be made. The Chosen actually can be watched on an app, and you can cast it to a screen if you want to from the app, but it is entirely fan-funded. So they actually fan-funded this show and got a fairly big budget. This is a multi-millions of dollars budget. They actually funded 3 seasons of production. So they didn't start out saying, hey, let's, try to help us make another show. The guy had made like a pilot, so to speak. It was sort of a little mini TV show called The Shepherd. And from that, was able to fan fund 3 seasons, and their goal is to fan fund 7 seasons. They're building a complex, I think somewhere near Midlothian, Texas. So it's they've actually taken over this big complex, and they're building not only a big soundstage studio, but they're also building models of like Capernaum, a village in the Middle East where things happened in the New Testament. And I thought, this is a fascinating model because it's basically saying, we're going to do a Hollywood-style production of this, not just like the normal Christian movie funded by a local church, some of which have been good, some of which have been otherwise. But we're going to actually try to do a relatively serious budget job here. We're going to, and they start out at the beginning. The producer introduces it and he says, I just want to let you know that this is a story. This is meant for people to watch. However, at every turn, we consulted with theologians and pastors, and we want to make it biblically solid, but we're telling a story. So there's going to be some creativity in this. There's going to be some variation from, we're filling in some gaps that don't actually appear in the story of the life of Christ from the Gospels. And apparently they've made it pretty engaging, and it's been shared like crazy. People are giving anywhere from just a few dollars to providing major funding for this organization. And they're kind of saying, hey, if you give so much, we'll let you appear in the movie. And so
that's kind of common. That's fairly common. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people are actually like in crowd scenes, where the Sermon on the Mount scene where there's all those people gathered around or whatever. And then some of those people are actually funders of the production. So I just thought this is an interesting model to get stuff made. I question whether it's a valid or a useful model for getting, in this case, getting the gospel out. Because who's going to watch this?
The same people who are putting the money in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that enough? Maybe it's just a vanity project for them. Maybe, it like me, I'm just such a cynical person. When my wife suggested it to me, like a good Christian husband would have immediately leaped at the opportunity. Said, "Oh yes, honey, something about Jesus on TV? Why, do tell. We shall watch this immediately and binge it all evening." But I didn't. So, is this the future of? Let's put it this way: alternative ideas or alternative stories getting told by creating essentially a whole vertically integrated system from the funding of the production to the creation of the app?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I was busy looking up something. I wanted to get the name right. There's been a number of Star Trek fan films made. Parenthetically, I and my friend Fritz may have made the first one. We made a Star Trek fan film in 78, something like that. You
made the first Star Trek fan film.
I'm not saying we made the first one. I'm certainly made the first one I've ever been aware of.
Oh, okay.
But this is a good example. There's a number. There's go ahead.
I was going to say, this almost sounds like when talk radio hosts say, nobody's talking about this. And I always think it's because you're not watching or listening to anybody else.
I haven't found one before then, but that's not the point. The point is I went looking for this. There's certainly scores and maybe hundreds of Star Trek fan films out there, but the one that I always thought was the best, there's two. One is Star Trek Axanar, which is real professional, using professional actors that were in the TV series. But there was a Star Trek series called Star Trek The Voyage Continues. And they did, 12 episodes. Star Trek Continues. They did 12 episodes. The guy who played Kirk on this was like a Kirk. He'd been playing Kirk ever since he was a little boy. And it's lit exactly like the TV show. And there are moments, honest to God moments in that when I think, sorry, internet, when I think, wow, that is actually William Shatner. Anyway, my point in all this is this. Yes, it's absolutely the way to go. And I'm real happy to hear it.
Well, they didn't even, this is not being treated like a not-for-profit venture. In fact, the Chosen LLC actually.
No, it can't be.
What's that?
It can't be a charity. If you're going to run it for 7 years, it's got to make money.
Yeah, it's a profitable enterprise. And they said something like 16,000 people paid at least $100 each to fund the shooting of the first season. So the budget was $11 million.
That's serious money.
That is. Yeah. That's real money.
And they were offering, they had to file through the Securities and Exchange Commission. People get shares in the company if you're an investor in the company. And the guy the chief of it, a guy named Dallas Jenkins, who's actually, some Christians will know him because he's Jerry B. Jenkins' son, and Jerry Jenkins wrote this whole Left Behind series with Tim LaHaye. Anyway, Dallas Jenkins according to the SEC filing, draws a salary of $300,000 a year. So this is not
unreasonable.
This is not chump change. This is serious work, and they're making a go of it. Go ahead.
No, I think this is the future. I think it's the future. It's monetizing. It's still a little tricky, but it's absolutely tremendous.
Well, and it's free. The app is free, so it's like it's all monetized up front. Now they do other things like they sell swag, so you can get like T-shirts, Bible study books, things like that. I guess Bible study books are technically not swag, but
first time I've ever heard them referenced as such. But
and the founder, this Dallas Jenkins guy, is not going to share in the profits until the startup investors get back their initial stake plus at least 20%.
What a remarkably un-Hollywood and somewhat Christian thing to do.
Yeah.
So far, $40 million and counting.
40.
$40 million. Well, the first season was 11, but so far they've taken in $40 million and counting.
No, it's great.
They've got a 1,200-acre camp that the Salvation Army owns where they're setting up their sound stage, and they've created this city of Capernaum. They've even, I thought you would like this, Bill, both of you are kind of history guys. When they built the village, they actually built it so that the little dwellings could take two different kinds of doors. They could take like the doors that would exist under sort of the old Palestine kind of doors, and they have Roman doors. So they can switch them out for different periods of time if they need to film.
Well, most people don't pay attention to that kind of detail. Good for them.
Yeah.
And that kind of trickery is very old school Hollywood, by the way, being able to reuse the same set multiple times. You're talking about their budget, though. I remember in 87 or 88, I guess it was 87, when Star Trek The Next Generation debuted, it had a record-setting budget. Nobody had ever spent $2 million on an episode of television before. Wow. And that's what they had budgeted for this. And it was massive, again, unprecedented. And I realize, adjusting for inflation, that's probably $4 or $5 million now. But the point remains that they're not doing anything with spaceships and lasers and transporters and all of the rest. They're doing something that is comparatively low budget, and they're still getting what amounts to about $1 million an episode for the first season.
Yeah, there's no like green glowing aura around the guy who was lame and can now walk. They just they don't have to do any CGI. He just stands up. But they apparently, this is the other thing. I forgot about this. Have you ever seen, when you go to the theater, they're advertising some event like an opera or a ballet that's going to be shown one night only in the theaters? There's a company called Fathom Events that does these things. Yeah. Well, anyway, they're doing a Fathom event. And they've had to expand it to 10 days in some 1,700 theaters. They have sold tickets for this thing. And where is the figure? I thought I saw something. Ticket sales are approaching $6 million for this combination of a Christmas special that and includes some musical performances and parts of the production itself. So these guys are no idiots.
No, it sounds great. It's exciting, and I really think it's the future.
Okay, so that's show number one. Show number two, on a less upbeat note, is a company that I believe is in Sweden. I'll have to double check. It's either Sweden or Switzerland. And again, after all those years in school, I still don't know the difference. Switzerland. It is. And I'll get you an image of this so that Mark can stitch this into the episode. But Switzerland has just legalized a new way to die by assisted suicide.
I've seen this.
Yes, and this is the Medical Review Board has authorized the use of the Sarco suicide pod.
That's not what I'm talking about.
But it's a 3D
printed,
straight
out of Futurama.
It's a 3D printed portable coffin-like capsule that has windows, and you can not the operating system, actual windows, glass windows. So you can transport this to the location of your choosing, where then you can press some buttons and answer. You have to answer some questions in order to go ahead with it, but you can press some buttons, and it essentially sucks the oxygen out of the room. It slowly replaces over 30 seconds. It replaces oxygen with nitrogen or something. And anyway, apparently without gasping or choking or gagging, you die within a relatively short period of time. Sarco, by the way, is that's from the Greek root that means flesh, I think. What is it? Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus,
yes.
yeah.
Can you imagine using a word like that? Wouldn't you wouldn't you use something like Daisy Box Suicide Pod or something like that? Something a little more cheerful than sarcophagus. Anyway, so this is the new thing. Now you don't just have to die in some, sterile hospital-like setting or clinic, or, have the doctor of death show up at your front door and do that in your own stinking bedroom. But you can actually get this sleek, futuristic-looking pod, and this thing looks like a spaceship that from the way we thought spaceships would look back in the 1960s.
What's it called again, Scott?
It is the Sarco Suicide Pod.
Sounds like a ride at a state fair.
Death takes place through hypoxia and hypocapnia, oxygen and carbon dioxide deprivation, no panic, no choking. In Switzerland last year.
It looks like an escape pod.
Yeah, it looks like a spaceship. Now, when I first saw it, what attracted me to it, honestly, as I saw Suicide Pod, I thought, oh, cool, they're going to just launch you into space.
That's just what I was going to ask. Is it possible to get one of these without the whole suicide thing?
Yeah, could I do this and not die?
Can I just sleep in this? Because that's cool.
It is.
Apparently, Switzerland had 1,300 people last year legally off themselves in various ways under their existing law, because they're an advanced society far more than ever we could hope to be. But anyway, it's just like they said they had 3 designs sketched out for this thing, but one of them wasn't too aesthetically pleasing. And they essentially, it's let's make suicide sexy again. I mean, it's this very cool looking thing. I want this pod. I want to own it, but not use it for its intended purpose.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I just want to sleep in it. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My wife could grow a lot of flowers in there, herbs, get the whole thing going.
Because the first thing I'd do if I got one is drill a few holes in the bottom just to be safe.
That's right. Yeah, you're always seeing those sci-fi movies where somebody's locked into some capsule and then they're like, I can't get out.
Then you've got 30 seconds to defuse the thing. The countdown timer's going. You don't know whether to cut the red wire or the blue wire.
Cut the red wire! Okay, I keep trying. When I write this down, I keep writing Suicide Squad instead of Suicide Pod.
I think they're doing some virtual reality there too. So I don't know.
What's that? Are they?
I'm just looking at pictures, and there's a number of, I don't know if they're related, but a number of these pictures look like people got virtual reality headsets on.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow. What do they call that other thing where you're walking around in the real world and you can see things in front of you that aren't there?
Is it augmented reality?
Augmented reality, yeah. I think they should do it in a way where they get those augmented reality or virtual reality headsets, and instead of just passing away quietly through hypoxia, that you're actually in a video game and you get shot and die.
This is a product demo I don't want to watch.
Yeah. So like there's something that like fries your brain when somebody hits you and says game over. The last thing you see is game over.
Game over.
Yeah. All right. Get to time to level up. Okay.
Okay. So that's me. That's Scott Ott with 2 episodes this week on Right Angle, and Stephen Green. You also get a crack at this.
Yes. I want to talk about just the weirdest thing I've seen in a while, where
I'm right here.
Fake human promoted what might have been a fake event that then went viral.
Huh.
So I don't know if
I'm intrigued.
I don't know if you saw this thing, but there was what's the group called? It's this neo-Nazi fascist group called Patriot
the Republican
Front.
Party
Called Patriot Front. That looks to my eyes like it's another. It looks to me like another Fed operation. Fed runs QAnon and all that stuff. I went to their website. I read their manifesto. It just killed so many brain cells reading this thing.
I just saw a headline that said the Patriot Front isn't like, it's not made up by some leftists who are trying to make right-wingers look bad. I didn't even know what it was talking about.
Yeah. Well, now you do. So the event was this march was held in Washington on Saturday, and it's guys wearing combat boots. None of them could march. They had a drummer, but none of them could march. Or they had a couple of drummers. They're all wearing khakis, blue windbreakers, and they've got the white gaiters covering their faces and the baseball caps, and they've got shields. And
Nice.
they all look to be late 20s, early 30s in fit. So I immediately went, this isn't a right-wing group. We'd been to Tea Party protests.
Oh, just the one with the feds where everybody's wearing the blue shirts and the white caps?
Yeah, the one in September.
Absolutely real, yeah.
Yeah, that September
What a
rally for,
joke.
Remember the 6th or whatever it was called, and Trump said, "Don't go, it's a trap." This looked like another one of those traps. I don't know that it was feds, but it sure as hell looked like.
I think I've seen the picture. It's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
It looked like a very similar scene, and they're marching and they're doing their drums. Well, actually, I take it back. They're not marching; they're strolling, even though they've got the drums going. So, number one, it looked to me like another fake thing. Either that or this group is really lame. I couldn't tell you which for sure. But what really interests me is how this thing got promoted. So this Twitter account is created just a couple of days before the event. And it's got a pretty blonde woman's face for the Avi. And there are like 2 tweets. One's about her dog, something, and then there's another raising money. And then this account tweets, "Oh my God, 500 white supremacists marching through D.C." And the tweet is directed, with the ats at a bunch of typical reliable progressive journalists who then pick it up and make the thing go viral. At which point, the account then switches gears, changes its name to Patriot Front, and starts spewing Patriot Front propaganda. And what's really interesting is, number one, how quickly this Twitter account, Cheryl Llewellyn, I think was the name. Can't find her anywhere on the internet. Google searches turn nothing up. And if you look at her face, a couple of Twitter experts on this stuff say it's an AI blend of headshots you can easily find on Google image searches. And the Fed thing aside, I don't know how much I want to get into that. I'm fascinated by this idea that you can actually create an online firestorm about an event that barely happened using a person that doesn't exist.
Welcome to the 21st century.
And then get us to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good thing is that I barely exist, and there's no way to make certain that we're real people either. Yeah, I'm reading a Washington Post story about it right now that says that it was a very small parade. They didn't have a permit to do this. And then the Twitter account became, after that event, the Twitter account became overtly fascist and changed its name to Reclaim America, followed by links to websites of Patriot Front and another neo-Nazi group. Now they suspended the account. So the concern of the Washington Post is that somehow they managed to get this far along the way to actually, create a little event through total fakery, and the Twitter algorithm didn't filter it out, didn't discover what was going on. So was this a head fake by somebody who said, "Hey, if we just have a beautiful woman who's commenting on a bicycle path near her home or something, then we suddenly change it."
Sounds like they wanted it to get out.
Well, but
Twitter
whoever
wanted it to
they
get out.
is, and that's what we don't know.
Well,
But they
Yeah.
didn't want it to get out.
I'm not sure. I think they is everybody now because that's the pronoun we're supposed to use.
This is tangential, but there's a business analyst I read runs can't remember his name, but the site's called Stratechery, which is a really terrible name, but sticks in the brain, so I guess it's all right. He argued that the way for Twitter to clean itself up is to start charging. Yeah, I know. I had a little conflated 2 words there. It'd be to start charging. You'd lose about a third of your users, but at $4 or $5 a month, they would be making more money than they're making now, and you would get rid of the bots because nobody's going to spring 100,000 bots if it's going to charge them $5 up front per bot. I would really like to see that because I love the idea of Twitter. I loved Twitter before the progressives and the bots took it over. I'd like to see it get back to that.
The only time I've ever really seen value in Twitter, and I haven't done it for a number of years now, is when there's some event that's happening quickly, and the news can't keep up with it. So inevitably, somebody is out there in the streets tweeting live, that there's an earthquake or fire or whatever. Some big thing is happening. And reporters aren't even on the scene yet, but there's all this crowdsourced, freelance video that's or pictures that are streaming out.
Yeah, and I love it for that. I miss the 24/7 cocktail party atmosphere that it had back in 2009, 2010. But things went quickly south.
Okay, so Patriot Front. I feel like what is that? Isn't there a Who song that's something front? Eminence Front. Eminence Front. That's that song is running through my head as I'm hearing the words Patriot Front.
You could do worse.
That's right. Okay, Bill Whittle. I know we've got to, as they used to say in the old days when people knew what this meant, move the mail today. So what's your topic?
Move the mail, man. I'm cooking with gas now.
That's right.
Time to get on the trolley.
What a pickle.
I don't think I can think of a time in American history ever where we knew who the next president was going to be. But we know who the next president's going to be now. Yes, we do.
Oh.
There's not a chance on earth that Joe Biden is going to maintain that office for 3 more years. Just absolutely not going to happen.
Oh, you're just saying not the next election. You're saying before this term expires.
I'm saying I'm not trying to predict the next election. No one can predict the next election, no matter how lopsided. Maybe in 1984, you could probably put your house down with a relatively high level of comfort. But nevertheless, we didn't know. But now we know. I mean, I think I've been dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. I see this process. I know what's going on. He is not going to make it to 2022. And that means that we know who the next president's going to be, and it's going to be Kamala Harris. Yeah. So I want to talk about her. There's an article that Steve, I'm sure, saw on Instapundit where her virtually all of her staff left. They said it was she's a bully and soul. It said it was soul destroying to work for. But to be perfectly honest with you, the main reason I want to do it is just so I can cover this tweet, which to me is just absolute golden. So she's obviously got approval ratings in the low 20s, and that's why nobody sees her. 2 things I want to cover on this was, have you seen the video of her from like 20 years ago where she was a bimbo date for who was the guy?
Willie Brown?
Like a talk show host.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I've got to look this up.
Hang on. It was a guy who had his own little TV show for a while.
And she was just like hired to accompany him?
She is on it's like watching Entertainment Tonight. And here's the guy and he says, this is Suzanne and this is Kamala.
Today there would be a major firestorm if somebody mispronounced her name like that.
Kamala.
Oh, Montel Williams.
That's the guy.
Yeah, I remember him.
Oh.
Have you seen the video of Montel Williams and Kamala Harris?
No.
It's really special.
Were they in love?
Oh, no. But
I'm afraid to look.
The thing that's important about this is that it shows you what I think she really is, which is just essentially kind of a date. I mean it. She's a date. He's dating 2 guys or 2 girls, and she is here, and she just looks like.
Oh, there she is. She's on the runway.
You'll hear somewhere in here. You'll hear Montel say, who's that lovely lady with?"
Yeah, her
name's Kamala.
That's more Kamala than I wanted to see right there.
But my point is,
that is any amount of Kamala.
Is she there because of her own achievements? Is she on this show because of what she did? No, she's just Montel Williams' date on one particular night, and she dated Willie Brown. For 20 years or whatever it was. And so one of the things, this is the thing that really, really scares me about her. It's not just what I think to be her incompetence and lack of suitability or fitfulness for the job, but most people are openly saying she's extremely insecure. And boy, there's nothing better than that in a world leader, especially a world leader of the United States.
So apparently this, what's his name? Williams, Montel Williams, is that his name?
Yeah.
Apparently he tweeted this out originally in August of 2019 and said that he had briefly dated her 20 years ago when they were both single. And then it erupted again about a year ago and resurfaced, as they say. You know, that's the term they use, as if it just passively bubbled up from the Earth's molten core, you know. That's right.
I want to cover the bases with her, right? Came in last in her own state primary. It has absolutely.
She dropped out before Iowa.
She had been given a number of jobs as vice president, and she's absolutely vanished. People say she's living hell to work with. But the main thing I want to do is I want to cover this tweet. There's a guy sitting in an office, and it's like you can almost see the pistol. It's just out of frame, the pistol to his head. And it says, "Hello, my name is David Jens. I work for Vice President Harris on behalf of the American people as Deputy Director for Operations and absolutely love my job. Just thought some of you should know."
And he's blinking really SOS. By the way,
right.
I believe his actual job title is Sole Survivor.
And then our old friend Frank Fleming comes in with this picture, and he writes, "I don't know what's going on here, but we will rescue you. Just don't make any sudden moves until then. She can sense movement."
I love Frank Fleming.
Frank's awesome.
But in any event, this is not like, hey, wouldn't this be interesting or awful if this happened? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And
and it's interesting because we've kind of had a long history of denigrating vice presidents and thinking these people are not prepared. And thank God most of them have not had to be prepared.
And I look at this, and I think, oh, she's going to be the first woman president and the first black woman. And I'm thinking,
and the first Indo-Asian president or whatever they called her.
And the first Jamaican president and the first president for the last 200 years descended from slave owners and all the rest.
Technically, not the first president with a bob in her hair, though. Go ahead.
No, but she is absolutely, she knows how unqualified she is. And Russia's massing troops on the Ukrainian border. And all of this stuff's going. Nobody, it's what we need. What the free world needs is somebody who not only doesn't know what they're doing, but who knows that they don't know what they're doing, and is showing everybody that they know that they don't know what they're doing.
Does she have any kind? Well, I was going to say this is not a prerequisite to the presidency, as we've learned of late. But does she have any kind of previous experience of running an organization where it doesn't necessarily rely on her expertise, but she's shown some sort of ability to, surround herself with competent individuals who can do the work? Like when she was district attorney, was that a well-run office?
She used ex-cons for slave labor as district attorney.
And
are you saying that as a negative?
The point of this whole article is that her entire staff, her senior staff is gone. They've just left.
Now, why didn't I hear about this resign en masse thing?
Soul destroying.
Yeah, that was the one that got me. She's Veep. She is Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Veep. I don't know if you ever watched the show. If you like insult humor, it's the funniest thing since Don Rickles, and just absolutely brutal.
Julia's great.
Just brutal. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays, I can't remember her character's name, but she's the first season, she's the vice president, and she's just, I don't know if she is more scheming, inept, or immoral, or more immoral than scheming and inept, or it's maybe just a tie between the three. And just also funny and mean. But
the source of this is a guy in a red tie and a blue suit, so he's got to be true. And apparently this comes from CNN. He's saying staffers who've worked for Kamala Harris say one of her consistent problems is that she refuses to wade into briefing materials prepared by staff members, then berates employees when she appears unprepared because she wouldn't do the necessary prep work, which sounds just about right.
Everybody went to high school with somebody like that.
This is the same criticism, by the way, that was levied against Donald Trump by his opponents. That he didn't read the briefings or didn't take the briefings or interrupted the briefings and berated staff members who who got in his way. This is actually, this story, Bill, is echoed in the Washington Post. It says, and this is a lead in the Washington Post. The rumors started circulating in July. Vice President Harris's staff was wilting in a dysfunctional and frustrated office, burned out just a few months after her historic swearing in and pondering exit strategies. A few days later, Harris hosted an all-staff party at her official residence where most of her office bit into hamburgers and posted pictures of smiling congenial coworkers on Twitter. However, yeah, they're reporting it. Wow.
So anyway, meet the new boss. And if you think this is a catastrophe now, you just wait.
Yeah.
And good. And I wish we could find a way to tick all the boxes so I don't have to hear the word historic one more time in the course of my golden years.
Well,
they're saying here, now, Bill, there's some backtracking here because they said the communications chief and 2 other staffers who helped to shape the vice president's public image, they're leaving, and she told the Washington Post that her departure is not due to any unhappiness or dysfunction, but rather that after 3 years of relentless pressure that came with speaking for and advising Biden and Harris, she's ready for a break.
Nobody leaves the first
year. A person who spends their entire life trying to get into the inner circles of government and grooming candidates has now finally achieved not only the position of vice president, but has achieved an inner circle of who will be the next president of the United States. And they've decided I'd just rather go home and spend some time with my grandkids. I call BS on all of it.
Bingo.
Boy, if you've got the Washington Post saying that this is an issue because it says there's a quartet of soon-to-be empty desks, and it reignites questions about why Harris churns through top-level Democratic staff, an issue that has colored her nearly 18 years in public service.
What a racist thing to say. But in any event, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. This is something
to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so we got Bill Whittle, President Kamala Harris, and taking a look in there. And I'm going to I still am not on the dementia train with Biden, but I think I can buy. Okay, what if? So I'll accept your premise and go from there.
Okay.
All righty. So we are ready to roll on this week's episode. It's only 42 minutes, and I'll make the sign out quick. We're grateful to the members at BillWhittle.com who've made this possible. We thank you for all your help on the blog and the forums and the comments section that makes it a better website. And by the way, for those of you who are somehow watching this show but haven't seen, in the last week, thanks to some suggestions from members, we've actually revamped the look of the front page of the website.
Looks great.
So it's a little easier to navigate, and it looks better, frankly, especially once you're logged in as a member. And if you have any more comments or suggestions about that, there's that contact link at the top of the page. We're always glad to receive those. And our ability to satisfy your needs is only limited by, our ability. So for Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. We'll see you this week on Right Angle.